Hey guys, welcome to another Friday night edition of Wrestling Royalty. And tonight we're going to be discussing the brand new heavyweight championship that WWE introduced on Monday night on Monday Night Raw. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about that. I'm going to be bringing in a couple of guests. The first one who's going to come in is going to be Mr. Sam Smith from Gimme a Hell Yeah. We'll be joined by Dom in a little bit as well. So we'll have the Gimme a Hell Yeah guys on, as they were so well received last week for the WWE draft. But before we go any further, welcome to Wrestling Royalty. As I said, welcome, and I hope you're having a really good Friday night. And this is welcome to a long bank holiday weekend as well. So I hope you got some plans, and it all starts right here, right now on Wrestling Royalty. So as promised, I'm going to bring in our first guest, which is Mr. Sam Smith. How are you doing?
Hi, Andy, you all right? I'm all right, mate. I'm always a little bit intimidated and threatened by your introduction, by your opening graphic, because it's like it looks so slick. And then I realise we've got Darby Allin putting someone through a wall on ours. I feel like, oh, that's good too. So, but anyway,
you go big and brash. Go big or go home. That's what I got to say. But no, great to have you on again, mate. Really enjoyed last week's show when we did the draft with yourselves and the guys from Rebellious Noise. You might have seen my favorite clip kicking around on Twitter of Diva Dom, who you never know, maybe Diva Dom will join us later on. But great to have you back on, mate. How's your week been?
Busy, and it's like I heard you mention a bank holiday weekend. I don't know what that is because it's like this week I'm doing all this tonight. Got the SmackDown stream, then it's I've just got work to do tomorrow and work to do Sunday. So it's I don't know what a day off is anymore, but that's the life I chose, I suppose. How about yourself?
Yeah, same, mate. Just very busy, just trying to get things organized, try and line up some stuff for the channel. As anyone who follows me can probably attest to, I've been pestering everyone to subscribe. Managed to go over 60 subscribers, guys. So that's smashed the first two goals, which is 25 and 50. And we're all the way on the way to 100 subscribers. So if you haven't already and you're watching this, I'm going to do that little bit of social media work right now. Hit the like button, subscribe. Definitely comment. That's what makes my day, is when people comment and we can get people involved. We've already got Danny Hargreaves, another Gimme a Hell Yeah guy, is getting himself involved. Really good to see you, and no need to apologize for keeping Sam any longer. He's here. We're getting started. And speaking of Gimme a Hell Yeah, let's bring in another guy from that wonderful channel. Here he is.
Hello, how you doing, guys? You all right?
Not bad. Drummer.
He does, doesn't he? He is a drummer, isn't he, actually?
Yeah, I do.
He looks the part as well.
I do play drums. Yes, that's the thing. Yeah, how are you guys doing? How's your evening? Are you ready for the draft? We're getting drafty. We're getting drafty tonight.
It's God. I'm just thinking how red I look on this stream. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe I've been drinking too much. Who knows?
You've got that lovely J.J. Abrams flair, like, coming across your screen, as you said before. You've got that nice little beam of light coming through. It looks like a Star Trek movie. Yeah, it's great to have you on as well, Dom. You're looking very well, mate. You're looking buff. What's going on? Have you been working out, or what's happening?
I don't know, man. I do go to the gym. That is the thing that I do, but today I just happen to be wearing a tank top. I don't normally wear tank tops, but thank you for the lovely compliment. I really appreciate it. That's very nice of you to say. I do, especially at 22:06, 10:06 in the evening. It's always nice to have a lovely compliment from a lovely human being such as yourself on this wonderful channel, Wrestling Royalty, that we're on, that you rightly said is getting a lot of love right now, which is fantastic. So we please continue to support Wrestling Royalty and continue to support Andy Sports, one of the finest wrestling journalists and wrestling feature writers in the country. Whether you know it or not yet, you soon will. So thanks for being here. Thank you for supporting Andy and Wrestling Royalty. And I'm excited to talk about some championship predictions tonight, guys.
Absolutely. And by the way, I must say, you plug my channel even better than I do. You're definitely more experienced. So thank you for that. And also, speaking of plugging the channel, there's a lovely gentleman by the name of Tom Talks Rubbish, who's in as well, who has a wonderful channel where he interviews a lot of different people from around the wrestling industry, different wrestling journalists. Sam, Dom, Sam's missus is coming up as well, I believe, on his channel.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
I call Tom the wrestling journalist. You know, he's the guy that gets the stories from the people that break the stories. So
I wish I'd thought of it, Tom. Like, if you're listening, mate, I wish I'd thought of it. Your gimmick, your niche. Flipping heck, when I was thinking up mine, you beat me to it, but you did it first, mate, and I did it well. So
keep going, mate. Doing a great job, and really enjoyed watching your Sean Ross Sapp episode from a couple of weeks back. Keep going, mate. Brilliant work, and good to have you in tonight, as well as Danny as well. And obviously, you guys giving me a little bit of love on the Twitter side or YouTube side of things there, and As Yet Untitled in as well. Thank you for subbing. And straight away, he's going to kick us off here, or they are going to kick us off. Let me just bring in this lovely championship belt, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. So,
looks good.
On Monday night, for anyone who wasn't watching, Triple H was announced to make a announcement very late on. Actually, they didn't kind of give much of in the way of plugging it until a couple of hours before the show. That he was going to make an announcement that would. I'm trying to remember the exact word. It was something like shake the foundations or shake the landscape of WWE. I don't know if it was a little bit of a shot at AEW's kind of constant Tony Khan announcements, things like that. But this is actually one that did, I guess, change the landscape, and very keen to get everyone's thoughts on it. So, WWE introduced the World Heavyweight title, which definitely, for me, looks like a bit of a spin-off of Big Gold, which was the old WCW belt, and then became the World Heavyweight title during the kind of Ruthless Aggression era. Great to see a new belt. But there's a lot of controversy around it as well. So very keen to kick things off. What was your initial reaction? Let's go with Sam first. What was your initial reaction when you found out there was a new belt?
Well, I'm a smart Mark, so I had mixed reactions straight away. Like my first knee-jerk reaction was like, dude, why don't you just split the Universal and then the WWE? But then I thought to myself, let's be honest, it's the big gold belt back, just in another form, isn't it? That's what it is. That and I've missed the big gold belt, so I've missed them having I suppose a designated heavyweight championship. So I love the design of the belt. I'm happy to see something channeling the big gold belt. It looks to me, the more I've thought about it, that it probably means Roman Reigns is going to hit that 1,000-day mark, and then I think the WWE title, because it's got so much more prestige than the Universal, I think it'll probably swallow and be merged with the Universal, and probably then retire the Universal belt forever. That is what I think is going to happen. People have argued it could be the other way around, but I don't see that happening because one's only got a couple of years of history, heritage, and the other's got like over 50 years. So that's all my initial reactions. But then the more I've thought about it, as much as I love the design of the belt and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, there are some issues that we need to get into as well. And the recreation of this belt poses a couple of problems, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. Very interesting you say about the Universal belt. I think it was 2016, I believe it was introduced in. Obviously had a bit of a shaky start when Finn Balor had it and got that injury on his kind of when he won it, and then had to relinquish it very quickly. But this already started to build a little bit of its own reputation. But as you say, it'd be a very strange decision to kind of drop the WWE Championship in favor of the Universal Championship or title, whatever you want to kind of call it. Definitely need to have that kind of clarified as to what's going to happen. As you say, we do have Roman Reigns' 1,000 days around the corner, which will also take place in Saudi Arabia. I believe it's on the exact day that happens. We'll hit 1,000. So we're going to get this crowned. We're going to get Roman hit 1,000 because I think it's that day. So depends how they kind of go down that route. But certainly Night of Champions definitely seems an apt title for it. So Dom, initial thoughts for yourself? We've heard Sam's kind of opening gambit. What about yourself? I presume you probably would have heard it in the morning when it was announced overnight, because obviously Dan's very good at going through Raw, but I believe that's probably when you guys are asleep and Dan takes over with his snacks. So yes, Dom, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by it, to be honest. It will be Roman's 1,000th day, I think, on Night of Champions or around that. I think that's why they did it. And I believe this is a nice, tasty little consolation prize for anyone that wins it. This is I know a lot of podcasts have talked about it, and I'm very much in that same camp. It looks nice. It looks like a combination between the classic black WWE Championship and big gold, the WCW title. Aesthetically, it looks great, but this is nothing more than a consolation prize, and to me, it might as well be the 24/7 title. It basically is the backup to Roman's title. Oh, you can't beat Roman, you can have this. If they give this to Cody, it's a terrible decision. Cody needs to beat Roman. He should have beaten Roman at WrestleMania. We all know that. If this went to Seth or Finn, more appropriately Finn, to have that championship run that he was supposed to have the first time round, I'll be okay with it. If this goes to anybody but Finn or Seth, but mainly Finn, I will think it's a disappointment. Let's just throw our truth in there, and our truth deserves a world championship run. Why not give him this belt? Because he's not going to beat Roman, is he? Neither Seth, although he didn't lose to Roman, and clearly neither is Cody. So let's give them a consolation championship that looks pretty to make everybody feel good, shall we?
Oh,
savage!
I think I might have to start trending hashtag Diva Dom as he seems to be back. But
it didn't take long.
Honest, I mean, I'm loving the candid opinions, and I hope they keep coming. So, consolation prize. I'll ask you on that one first. Do you see it as very Sam? Obviously, you've heard those kind of comments there from Dom. Do you see that as a consolation prize?
I think it's sort of, it depends for me what they do with it. Like, if it ends up on Cody at Night of Champions, then yes. And it's, what are you thinking? But I like what Dom suggested with someone like Finn Balor getting it. I think that could work really, really well, because Finn, we all know they're really, really high on Finn. Triple H and his team are. We know a lot of the fans are really, really high on Finn. The only person who's never been really high on Finn is Vince McMahon, who is kind of breathing down everyone's necks again a little bit. But I like the idea of someone like Finn holding this. But the whole problem with that is they've kind of promised us a babyface champion for this one, who's going to be a fighting champion, who's going to defend it, and we've got heels holding the other two big belts, which have been a little bit buried by the introduction of this as well. Jess is watching, Dom. She says you look lovely, by the way. She's just texted me. That's what that dinging was. There you go. I'm just going to quickly shut that so I don't get any more dinging. Sorry, guys. Where was I? But if Cody ends up with this, it is going to stink of consolation prize, and it's. I'm going to bury my head in my hands, but I'm not. I hope they're smarter than that. That is my greatest hope.
No, it's a good point, because I think obviously you guys were there in SoFi when Cody didn't, and the atmosphere was a bit of a strange one. I don't know if it was the same way you guys were sitting as well. It was a bit of a deflation around the stadium, and I think you're right. Were they to kind of go down the route that Cody wins this, I think it would be seen that way. There's no
thinking. There's no thinking, Andy. As much as I obviously respect you and your quality journalism and the fact that we're sat here on your channel, it would be a consolation prize for any. If it was Cody, absolutely. it would be a massive misstep. And I'm sorry to interrupt you as the host.
No, not at all. I think
the idea that Cody, that they're even considering giving this to Cody, is a disaster. This needs to be like a WWE. This needs to be like a World Championship Intercontinental title. This is kind of what that's like to me. It's like a WWE title, it's like an ECW title, isn't it? Kind of, when they bought the ECW championship over. Like, this belt can be used to elevate someone that's either never held it or someone that held it and perhaps didn't get a title, a title run they deserve. Once again, I if this goes to Finn Balor, I'll be interested. If it goes to Cody, I won't be interested. If it goes to Seth, I'll let it pass. I'll let it pass because Seth can carry anything. But those are my only, Seth and Finn. Unless you're going to create a brand new champion like a Braun Breaker, like Dan says, this belt needs to be given to somebody who's never held a world championship before, in my eyes, or someone like Finn. To be honest, to make it interesting, because
I love the idea of Finn.
It's a B title already because no one can beat Roman, and Cody needs to beat Roman. Cody needs to be the guy to beat Roman.
So it's interesting that obviously today, before we kind of go, I will put my 2 cents across. I do like to be the presenter, but I will kind of put my thought process into it. It is very interesting that today the rumors are very strong that WrestleMania 40's main event is actually going to be a rematch of Cody versus Roman, which would be an interesting way if they can spin that story out. I think there's definitely a way to do it, because you could potentially have Cody constantly coming up every time he thinks he's back on track to go against Roman. Someone else like kind of rears their head, whether this time it's been Brock Lesnar. So does he overcome Brock Lesnar? And then on the next time, does Finn Balor, because they had that little run-in on Monday, does that then turn into the next one? And then, every time he gets a little bit along, because one of the things that people were kind of picking up on was Cody Rhodes hadn't had enough adversity. He hadn't kind of had enough challenge. The story was too linear. It was too easy for him to get the title at this WrestleMania. So maybe they go down that route. But I don't think they will go down the road with Cody. I think they will keep him away from this personally. I think whichever brands that Roman ends up on during the draft, I think Cody will go there, which means he'll go for those titles instead. In terms of the actual belt, for me, and I'd love to hear what you guys think of my opinion as well, is what they seem to be doing for me is whoever beats Roman now, because of this belt being introduced, whoever beats Roman is so over. Like they get a rocket strapped to them. They become the biggest thing that the company's had in a long time, because what they're effectively doing is saying no one could beat Roman, so we had to introduce this belt. So whoever does actually beat Roman, the flip side of take this belt out of the equation, whoever then beats him becomes, well, you were so good that you were able to beat the person that we had to create a new belt for. So like, how amazing are you? And it kind of puts them straight into that top spot. In terms of this belt, if you remember rightly, when the Universal belt was brought in back in 2016, people weren't keen on it, weren't keen on the design. It was very much the same kind of comments that were going on. And then things seemed to soften, because let's face it, you can't have prestige when you first introduce a title. It's just not possible. And some things can kind of fail, like the 24/7 belt did. But this definitely feels like something that's got Triple H's behind it. I don't know why I said H. That was weird. But yeah, Triple H is definitely behind this. So it'd be interesting to see who they do crown as the inaugural champion. And I guess that's probably where we go next, because you both mentioned Finn Balor, or you kind of like the idea of Finn Balor going for it. Seth Rollins is always a name that's mentioned, which is, again, interesting in itself that they were the first two that were going for the Universal Championship. So maybe they're the go-to guys every time there's a big new title there to go for. They're always in the frame. As the comment from Danny's there, Braun Breaker, who is obviously a possibility to come up in the draft tonight. But is there any other names that you would like to see, or you'd like to kind of pitch, or that you think would make a good inaugural champion? Dom, let's start with you, mate.
Again, if this doesn't go to Finn, so he can redo his championship, I think it would be a massive travesty. Next in line is Seth. After that, for me, I think, it would be, Dan's made some great suggestions as usual. I think Damian Priest would be good. I would like to see that personally. People in the the Insiders channel, they want Bray. I think you keep Bray away from a title. I also think Damian Priest isn't quite there yet. I think Cody is obviously a big no, as you discuss. So for me, it has to be Balor, or maybe a second is Seth there. If you're going to give it to someone that's never held a belt, someone that needs to be raised up, Sammy would be a good shout. Kevin Owens could do a great job if they were going to split that team up early. I don't think they're going to do that. So yeah, I'm trying to think of another one that I could see at the top of the card that could take that title and do great things with it. In terms of, maybe if Gunther was to lose the title, but I certainly wouldn't want Gunther to lose the Intercontinental Championship quite yet either. So yeah, I think to me the only names that really come to mind, I've really been thinking of somebody else, unless Dan, Bron Breakker's a good shout, but he doesn't have the personality or the flair that Balor does, So for me, it has to be either Balor or Seth. Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of anybody else.
I'll throw the same question over to yourself, Sam. Can you think of anyone else? That they do seem to be very common names that are coming up. So can you throw a curveball at us?
I think it's going to be Seth, if I'm being honest. I'd like it to be Balor, but as Balor's...
It should be Finn.
It should be Finn. I'd love it to be Finn. I'd pop like crazy. We're big Finn Balor fans in our house because we haven't stopped giving you abuse when we were drunk in Cardiff and you were there interviewing him, texting me like, guess who I'm interviewing. So
I didn't do that. Did I do that?
To be fair, you didn't realise. You were just saying. I think you put it on Twitter innocently, and we were all pissed up in a bar like he's talking to Finn Balor. So I can't. I'd hate anything you did wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hate to be the guy. I don't think I'm the kind of guy that's like, "Hey, look at me! I interviewed Finn Balor."
No, of course not. Of course you're not. No, but you're a professional. It was Diva Sam. That's what that was. That was Diva Sam.
Diva Sam, right? Okay.
Diva Sam, but he's very real. But to answer your question, Andy, I honestly think this is going to be Seth Rollins. I can almost see them building to it. Like they already had Seth come out and address the belt, and he didn't touch it. He didn't do the belt curse and touch it and do, like part of me thinks they could stick it on someone like Omos. I think Lashley, they can't make up their mind. Is he a face or a heel? At the moment where Lashley keeps flip-flopping more than the Big Show. But I think it has to be a baby face because of what Triple H said. If it's another heel, everyone will roll their eyes. They need to send them home happy. Misfit has just said Drew McIntyre. That's a great shout as well. Sheamus is also a good shout.
Drew's a great shout. Sheamus would be good, but then again, I think it's like if you give it to Sheamus, it kind of distracts from his quest for the IC title.
It does. You're right. And has he held the big gold before, Sheamus? I know he's held the WWE, but I don't know if he's held big gold.
Yeah, because the only belt he hasn't.
Drew and.
I thought the only belt he hasn't won is.
That's why he wants the IC. That's why he wants it. Got you. For me, it's I think it's already decided. I think it's Seth Rollins. I'll eat this hat if it's not. I won't.
Hello to Misfit Wrestling Podcast. Welcome to the show. Thank you for commenting, and glad you could be here and spending your Friday evening with us as we discuss the new WWE Heavyweight Championship. Is there a clue in the name? That obviously they've definitely stuck to the kind of previous iteration of the Heavyweight Championship. Is that something to read into? Because when you think of heavyweights and you kind of go down the list, then someone like Bobby Lashley or Drew McIntyre definitely seems to stand out as a heavyweight, as it were. But then you've also got, like, I would like to pitch someone and hear what you guys think. What about Nakamura as a heavyweight champion? Because he's yet to have a world championship in WWE. And I think that belt will look beautiful around his waist as well. Recently come back. But it looks like he's also entering into a feud with Karrion Kross, who could do with some sort of title and has been very vocal on social media as well, would need a lot of build. But there's two more names for you. What about Nakamura or Karrion Kross?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I had to really think. I said yeah, and then I was like no, because Karrion Kross. I feel like this belt again should be used to legitimize people that should have had a belt before. So Nakamura is a cracking shout. Karrion Kross needs to do a lot more. Sadly, because we're all fans of Kross, Sam's a little bit too much of a Kross fan.
All right, Bray.
Well, hang on, you're with me on Bray, so you can't really say much about that either.
You got me there.
But
I'm getting worse.
But yeah, absolutely. But I think Nakamura is a fantastic shout. Like again, guys like Nakamura and Balor, who a lot of people for many years have gone. They should have had more. They should have had better runs. They should have won the belt. Obviously, Shinsuke never did. Shinsuke is a cracking shout. So that would be another great add to my list. So I'm going to put Nakamura in my top 3 picks now. Behind Balor and Seth, because that's a great idea, and what a great way to elevate Nakamura to arguably the level that he should have always been over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. How long has Nakamura been around for?
Is it since 2017 or 2018? It's one of those.
Depends if you go back to NXT, I guess, or whether you go on the main roster alone. But I mean, his when you actually read what Nakamura has had, or you go through his kind of accolades in WWE, he's had the US title, he's had the Intercontinental title a few times, he's had the tag team titles. He's a Royal Rumble winner. He kind of, I guess, some weirdly faked that he was a King of the Ring winner by taking Corbin's crown. So the only thing he hasn't really had is a chance to kind of be a face of a brand outright. He had that kind of elongated feud against AJ Styles, which had great matches, but was a bit of a shoddy storyline around it because they obviously turned him heel with constantly low blowing and things like that. But as Misfit Wrestling Podcast is telling us, Nakamura has been with WWE for 7 years if you count NXT. So it's one of those things that he is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer one day because of all the work he's done in WWE, NXT, but also what he's done outside of it. But to really put him over now, this is the kind of belt and the chance they have to do with it. The other thing I would like to raise is, how do you want to see someone crowned? Do you think we're going to see a tournament? Do you think we're going to see a multi-man match? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you crown a new champion in 2023.
Can I just throw out one more name, and it does have somewhat to do with the crowning, but this is WWE, and I suspect, what if? Because I was going to throw out the name of LA Knight. Now again, it's a bit too early for him to hold a world title.
Sorry, LA Knight. What?
What if LA Knight?
No.
Sorry.
Sorry, LA Knight. What, Andy?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, carry on.
Balance has been restored. In fact, I thought of this when you went, a minute ago without realizing it, Dom. But yeah, so what if he wins Money in the Bank and cashes in and takes this immediately off the person who won it? Like, that is such a WWE thing to do, and I would not put it past them. Martin's in. Hey, Martin. With
What way to introduce yourself?
I know, and I'm thinking, like, because he is someone who'd be great, but it's like Dom, you said, this is a belt. My worry is if they stick it on a Balor or a Seth, or like, please don't give it Cody. Like, it does become a consolation prize. So what if they completely swerved us, and then nobody could accuse them of doing that? And I think LA Knight in winning Money in the Bank would work there. But again, then you have 4 heel champs, and that gets old real fast. So it's just an idea.
It depends, because with LA Knight, can you really count him as a heel? Like, this is the perfect opportunity to turn him face. I do feel like he's definitely... it's too early, and it's interesting because I would put him in a similar category, and I don't know how you guys feel before we go on to the kind of format of how you crown a champion. of something that as yet Untitled mentioned was Montez Ford if they were to split the Street Profits. Now, personally, I don't think Montez Ford is ready instantly for a belt. I'm not saying he isn't, because I think he's class maybe one day. But I definitely see Montez Ford as the kind of guy who has to go through the IC or the US title first, build yourself up a little bit as a singles competitor before you get to that stage. And very much a case of, and this might sound a bit harsh, but kind of paying your dues on the way up to make sure that when you arrive there, the crowd can fully believe that you're there from merit, not just because you suddenly decided you're a singles wrestler now and you looked into a championship shot, etc. So I would put him into that kind of category of LA Knight, because he's so cold in terms of, that kind of fire underneath him. He keeps getting beaten by Xavier Woods. So in that sense, you could say Xavier Woods is probably more deserving of a title shot right now, and he got his IC shot last week. But certainly LA Knight, I think, is someone given the briefcase, and I think that's absolutely the right way to go down. So a great shout on LA Knight, and great shout with Money in the Bank, because imagine the pop inside the O2 if LA Knight is to win the briefcase followed by the belt as well.
I think
the issue is,
go on.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say the issue is if they do turn him face, then the whole Money in the Bank thing doesn't really work, because, like, we look from history, Money in the Bank works best when a heel holds it, and a heel holds it for a while, and puts that threat over. Will they, won't they? I just find Money in the Bank boring if it's a face. So I know he's over organically, LA Knight, but I don't know if they're ready to pull the trigger on that babyface turn yet. So what were you going to say, Dom? Sorry.
No, I was going to say LA Knight is the ultimate Money in the Bank winner for me. Challenging for this title perhaps is the way to go for that, even if he loses. LA Knight could lose and still come across decent, unlike some other people like Mr. Kennedy and Damien Sandow. I think LA Knight could lose and still be a legitimate contender. Or he could win. He could win with the Money in the Bank. But I certainly don't see anybody aside from Pete Dunne. Actually, as Misfit Wrestling Podcast says, aside from Pete Dunne, I can't think of anybody better in London to win Money in the Bank than LA Knight. But obviously, Pete Dunne's a great shout there.
It was weird on WWE social media this week. They were acting like Manchester is Pete Dunne's hometown, which is just hilarious. Like, again, anyone in the American audience watching this, Pete Dunne is from Birmingham, which is about as far as from Manchester as you can get. It's the south for starters, and Manchester's in the northwest. But anyway, that's like when they pretended Cardiff was Drew McIntyre's hometown. It's not even in the same country. But anyway.
It's okay. During the UK Championship tournament, I'm pretty sure Michael Cole refers to Newcastle as a mining town in the north of England, which I don't think went down very well at the time. So, I wouldn't pay attention to the geography that WWE puts across for the UK. It is getting better, but it's still disheartening when you hear that someone is a good 2.5 hours and stoically from the Birmingham region. But never mind. So. There's a few more people in. So welcome to Martin. Good to see you. And my lovely wife is in. So hello to Jen, who's in as well. Nice waves there. So let's discuss how you crown a champion, which will take us to a nice face-on view of the championship, so you get a different angle. We've had a couple of suggestions. King of the Ring was one of them. Or if you're not a fan of the tournament, how do you guys feel if it was one from a 6-man ladder match? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. And then Danny came up with a nice, how about an elimination chamber match with it being in Saudi Arabia? It could give multi-man match stories for the future too. That's a great point. So any of those tickling your fancy? Dom, how do you feel about a multi-man match, or are you hoping for a tournament, or just a straight go for you two?
I think a tournament, not necessarily a King of the Ring, not necessarily branded as a King of the Ring, because I think that can be used to elevate somebody else in the mid card. I think the King of the Ring has traditionally been a way for someone in the mid card, someone like an LA Knight, or Xavier Woods again, or somebody like that, to be elevated to a potential main event spot. So for me, King of the Ring needs to be separate, but this could be a champions tournament. Much in the same way as maybe a tournament to then lead to a match, or a tournament to then lead to a fatal four-way, or like the final four of this tournament go to a fatal four-way. But I would like a straight classic sort of tournament. I think the ladder match thing, is too much. It's too Money in the Bank. For starters, the Money in the Bank is your premier ladder match in Monday WWE, and that's for a briefcase, which more or less guarantees you a title run of some,
And that's a month after as well, isn't it? Because this is at the end of May, and then it's the beginning of July, so we're talking about 30 odd days before a big ladder match pay-per-view, or PLE, I should say.
Yeah. So I would. Right. Yeah, I would say a straightforward tournament, not King of the Ring, because again, that is used for mid-card elevation to the main event scene, and then not the Money in the Bank, because if they do the Money in the Bank, then what's the Money in the Bank for? Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's a straightforward classic tournament, or a variation of that in a way, so you have. A tournament that then leads to a singles match, or a tournament that then leads to a fatal four-way, or something along those lines would be an interesting sway or swerve on that traditional tournament style. But for me, a classic simple tournament would work.
And when you talk about a tournament, what would be your preference? Because from my perspective, I used to love when they had the King of the Ring tournament that was played out in one night. And you had that kind of factor of who's actually got the most kind of stamina, like taking damage in the earlier rounds before it gets to the final. Or would you prefer Raw and SmackDown to kind of have the earlier rounds and then just have the strict, or play out the final as the main event of Night of Champions?
For me personally, I prefer it basically being King of the Ring, but without the branding.
Yeah.
Like I say, King of the Ring, branded as King of the Ring, needs to be a mid-card guy becoming King of the Ring and being branded as such. And you could do the tournament over a period of weeks, but they do that for the IC title. They do that for the US title. The champion. I mean, what was the last time they did something like that? Was when Jericho won it, and how cool was that? He beat two guys in the same night. Imagine LA Knight having the bragging rights of beating, two guys in the same night, or somebody like that. So for me, in an ideal world, it would basically be King of the Ring, but without being branded that way. It would be a championship tournament, and it would be branded as such, but leaving the King of the Ring to elevate somebody, as from mid-card to main event.
Yeah. I mean, Martin just put that there. Kurt Angle's a perfect example. Went from mid-card to main event via King of the Ring. I think you've got guys like Edge, I think I'd include in there as well. Who
Stone Cold.
Yeah. So So those guys who when King of the Ring kind of meant something, and do feel bad for Xavier Woods, because he did win last year at the King of the Ring and kind of didn't really get to do much with it, because he had that match with Roman where he actually did win by disqualification, but they kind of squashed his crown, and then that was it. He didn't really get much more after that. So a bit of a strange one of how it's been used in recent years, because it's not necessarily guaranteed you any kind of title shot. It's just you are king, and it normally goes to a heel, because let's face it, it works better. Arguably, Booker T had one of his best runs as King of the Ring when he became King Booker, and was very successful with that kind of gimmick in WWE. It's interesting. But a tournament that's not King of the Ring, which obviously it was once upon a time, Night of Champions in Saudi was supposed to be King and Queen of the Ring. So maybe they're not going to go too far away from that. But we'll certainly find out. Before we go any further, Sam, what's your preference here? What would you prefer to see?
Something Dan just said in the comments: qualifying matches on Raw and SmackDown, then have the semi-finals on the PLE and the final as the headline match. I actually kind of think, I don't think they can do King of the Ring for this, because it's like you said, they originally had the branding, then they decided to move away from it. And the problem with King of the Ring is today it's become a parody of itself, with the whole King Corbin, King Nakamura. Everybody just gets silly after they win King of the Ring, and that I kind of miss. Like, don't get me wrong, the King Booker stuff was great, and when Stone Cold won it, that was great. But now everybody tries to do their own version of King Booker, and no one ever pulls it off well. So yeah, leave King of the Ring in a mid card if you're going to do the silly gimmick with it. I think Dan's right. I think they do qualifying matches sparingly on Raw and SmackDown. They build it as a big deal. And then when you've got the two survivors from that, they maybe have that match on at Night of Champions. You don't have to call it anything. It's just a tournament for that belt. I don't like the idea of it being a multi-man. I don't like the idea of it being a ladder match because I feel like for a belt like that, for the big gold belt, which is kind of what it is, it's got to be mano on mano, no BS, no silly stipulations, just a wrestling match for a heavyweight title. I feel like if they muddy the water or if they overbook it in any way, they'll just kind of wreck it. Let's just have a traditional match with a winner and a loser, and with a babyface winner, unless it's going to be someone awesome like Finn. But I think it's going to be Finn versus Rollins, recreating their that match they had for the Universal title. I think the history might repeat itself, but I think this time Rollins goes over.
It's not a bad shout. There's a lot of history there. I'm sure the guys at WWE can put together a great video package, kind of harkening back to that match as well, and the kind of fallout, and maybe even play into the kind of injury angle, etc. But
yeah,
I mean, if they are to do the kind of route of having semi-finals and finals, and you go down that route of, this person is a bit injured going into the final, maybe that is a way where you can kind of keep, I know you guys might groan about it, but you have Cody Rhodes and he doesn't get it again because he's kind of like beaten up after his match, etc., by whoever he went in the semis, and that leads into a rivalry. So it keeps him away from the actual title, but still keeps him relevant towards a championship, if that makes sense as well. So I guess, though, a lot of the kind of participants, we're not really going to find out, and we might have a better idea after tonight and Monday when the draft's done, because the way that this has kind of been said is that this belt will go, or championship will go on whichever brand that Roman isn't. So whether Roman ends up on Raw, then we'll find out whoever's on SmackDown's got a good shot at it. So maybe that might give us a little bit more when we see SmackDown tonight. Speaking of SmackDown, which one of you lovely gentlemen would like to plug what is coming up at 1 a.m. tonight?
Sam, you're up. You've been doing some training tonight, so yeah, you do it. You've put the effort in, so you do the plug.
I am knackered. I'm beyond knackered, but I will gladly plug what we do. So at 1 a.m, if you join us on the Give Me a Hell Yeah podcast, we'll be doing a SmackDown watch along for the draft. So you probably going to see some David Dom. I think it's already primed, and then we're going to bring it out of here. We're going to bring him out of here. I'm going to be Uncle Howdy to your The Fiend.
I don't bring it out for unless it needs to come out. Unless it needs to come out. It's like other parts of my body. Obviously, there are times when it's appropriate for me to bring it out, and there are times when it's not appropriate. And maybe it'll be appropriate. Depends on what happens on the draft. It depends if if all goes well and we get a returning Bray, then I'll be happy. And Diva Dom doesn't need to come out.
Diva Sam's coming out if Bray doesn't even get a mention on the draft on SmackDown. Diva Sam's coming out. Never mind, Diva Dom can take a back seat. You are going to see some rage and some fire. I'm going to go all Fiend on you. But yeah.
Sassy Sam,
that's it. Yeah, Diva Dom and Sassy Sam. That's what we have.
Absolutely.
But yeah. Oh yeah, they don't know about Sassy Sam, do they? Because I was ranting that day, but we can't reveal that because it was we might break a few confidentiality things. But anyway, So join us on the watch along for SmackDown. Again, we do it every week. We do SmackDown. We do Dan, who's in the comments, does Raw, and Anthony Nayland does Dynamite. Andy, are you happy joining us tonight as a special guest?
He's sleeping tonight. It'll be the two of us.
Boring.
I have had this conversation. So tomorrow I am going to the Love of Wrestling convention over in Manchester. But I can reveal, and I have kind of kept you in the dark, I will join you for the first part of SmackDown tonight.
Yeah.
So exclusive. I'll give you that exclusive. You can see me over on Give Me a Hull Yeah at 1 a.m. How long I last for will depend on how idiotic I'm feeling and whether I need more sleep or not before I drive across to Manchester, where I'll meet Adam Cole, who anyone who knows me on a personal level, Adam Cole is my favorite wrestler. I'm very nervous to meet him, even though I've interviewed an abundance of wrestlers. I'm going to be wearing my Undisputed Era jacket and everything, so I'm getting my photo taken with Adam Cole. But I will be recording that, and there'll be a little video go out in the next week when I get back as well. So check that out before we come up with next week's video, which I'm sure I'll have a think about. Because let's face it, this week in wrestling, we've had a new championship announced. We've had CM Punk wandering the halls of Chicago's All-State Arena. What else have we had this week? We've had
the draft is coming. That's a pretty big deal. Coming.
AEW released their prices for the Wembley show coming up, at which tickets go on sale on Tuesday, I believe, because they're trying to avoid the bank holiday. So yeah, they go on Tuesday. So definitely a lot going on. I believe other things. Didn't Mercedes Moné lose their championship this week as well, early in the week, or was that last week? It all blurred into one.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Mercedes Moné has lost the title, so who knows what's going to happen the rest of this week. Obviously, it's an exciting time, as we often say these days. Thankfully, it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, and it's an exciting time to subscribe to Wrestling Royalty. So get it done. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell your pets. Do whatever it is you got to do. Get Andy the support he needs, because he deserves it. He needs it. He deserves it. One of the hardest working journalists in British wrestling. Give him the support he needs.
I love the idea of becoming the one stop for people's grandmas and pets that just randomly like to tune in. That maybe I'm just sat on in front of them on their TV while their dog just watches TV.
That was going down a weird path there. I was about to say I have been in the past at one-stop shop for many grandmas, because grandmas just gravitate towards me because they think they can look after me. I've had so many grandmas like come and sit on my knee and try and chat me up because they want to because in like pubs in weird places like Bake Up or whatever. No
disrespect to Bake Up.
No, lots of,
and your horny grandma.
Bake Up's probably one of the worst places in the UK I've ever been.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so I have been in the past a one-stop shop for horny grandmas because they just want to look after me. They just think that I need looking after, and I actually can look after them. But that's another story for another time. Anyway,
channel, not this one.
And another channel, yeah.
And here comes Heel Dom. Yeah, it's not even just Diva Dom. This is Heel Dom. He just
those grandmas certainly don't look at me as a heel. They
they love his baby face.
They want to put my
no.
They want to put my baby face somewhere. All right. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
So while you're busy subscribing to Give Me a Hull Yeah and Wrestling Royalty, also subscribe to WrestleSphere, please, as well.
We're much more professional.
Professional granny chasers like Dom and I we're not professional granny chasers. We're not very good at it.
I used to be. I'm retired. I'm retired.
Because now we're getting Mae Young mentioned in the comments, and I don't want to go down that route. But anyway, we are going to continue talking about the heavyweight championship before we go into any kind of more grandma talk or anything like that. Heavyweight championship. It was mentioned earlier on about an elimination chamber match. I know you guys weren't potentially keen on it. However,
I love an elimination chamber. Put it on. Let's do it.
If we go back and look at the US title, had a great match, didn't it, earlier in the year?
It did. And if anybody wants to rip on the ECW Elimination Chamber match, we're going to have words, because that was the best the ECW Championship has ever looked. And it was a great match, and I will fight you if you disagree. Elimination Chambers are awesome. I love elimination style matches. That's how we should do it. Let's do an Elimination Chamber to crown this champion. That's cool. Man, what was that? What did you just?
That was a groan.
I was going to say, it sounded like you got very excited about my suggestion, Sam.
Well,
like,
I'm thinking
like,
about the Danny's. But it was more of a scornful groan because I love Elimination Chamber so much, but I don't want it for this belt. I want some traditional wrestling, no gimmicks, no BS for this. That's what I want for this belt. I just want to, I want to have a few things restored that. Like Mania was awesome, but it's the deflation of the Roman Reigns match. I think they miscalculated with that, and they're using this as a way to kind of plug that gap. I don't know if it's fully going to, but if they gimmick this up, they're going to wreck it. So I don't want any of that. I just want to see qualifiers, then a match between two stars, no BS. Let's see it. An Elimination Chamber, I love so much. But once a year for me is enough. And I it's like the Royal Rumble. I like looking forward to it all year and then going, yeah, when it's on. And be right back, gentlemen, if you don't mind.
For the purpose of discussion, I'm going to actually ask, though, because Dom was very keen there. So with an Elimination Chamber match, you get 6 people in the match. So let's name said 6 people that you would put into the Elimination Chamber.
All right. Hold up. Let's do this. Let's think about this. Right. Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight. Seth Rollins. This is painful. What was my other one? Finn Balor. Finn Balor. Let's throw a curveball in there. Let's do the Miz. Let's put the Miz in there. Why is Sam's camera like on his? He hasn't got this whole thing of like taking himself off screen. I'm looking at. Has Sam got some? What's on his ceiling?
He's closed his laptop over, so you can just kind of see the fold in the in what I presume is a Mac. But
I was gonna say it looks. I was like, I can't feel like. What does that look like? That looks like a.
Let's
let's do that. So I was trying to figure out what that was. It looked like a weird, compartment of his desk that we weren't supposed to see. But yeah. So the Miz, because obviously he'll go out first. Seth, the Miz, Seth, LA Knight, Shinsuke, Finn. All right, so that's fine. One more. What about? So it's coming up pretty soon, right? It's coming up pretty soon. Well, relatively soon.
End of May, yeah.
Yeah. So my initial, until I saw Dan's comment, I was going to say Brock, and then Cody would cost Brock and continue their feud, which I imagine will continue forward. But Brock will be in there. But I'm actually going to put McIntyre in there. Yeah, because Drew, if Drew won it, it wouldn't be the worst thing because he could elevate that title, and he's another example of a guy that probably deserved a lot more from his initial title run, in my opinion.
We have a as yet untitled was mentioned there, but he's mentioned Dom Mysterio. What about Rey Mysterio being chucked in there as a kind of like safe pair of hands, someone who's obviously got a legacy behind them, but hasn't really had a chance to kind of go for any of the world titles since his newest run?
I don't think Rey's. I mean, obviously he can have a match, but again, I think if you're going to put a throwaway guy in this scenario, you put someone like the Miz in there, a guy to I think Rey has done his time. Rey has earned his stripes, his flowers. He's great at putting over younger talent, and that is what he's comfortable doing. I don't think he would win, and I think to put him in here, he'd have to go out pretty quickly, especially in my assembly of athletes. I'd put, unless you were going to put him out after the Miz and sacrifice one of those other guys, which I wouldn't be willing to do, in your Shinsuke, your LA Knight, your Seth, your Balor. I can't remember my other one, but yeah, I don't think that Rey should be in this conversation. Dominic's an interesting chat, but again, he goes out. He goes out early for me if we're talking Elimination Chamber.
I've got an issue as well with Rey in this, and this is going to sound terrible, and I really don't want it to. Is the heavyweight in this title, the word heavyweight, going to mean something? Because it hasn't for a long time, because we haven't really done weight classes. and I suppose this applies to Finn Balor as well, and a bunch of other people. But is this going to be a only over 205, strictly over 205 title because it's got the word heavyweight in it? Because it's like the Universal and the WWE Championship. But I know Paul Heyman likes to drop the word heavyweight in there, but nobody else does. So I don't know. Like if it's going to be heavyweights only, then they're chopping out a massive portion of their roster. But if they put it on Ray, then a lot of people are going to argue the optics are wrong, and they're going to argue that it's not heavyweight, are they? It's just I'm just trying to anticipate what the fans are going to do before they do it, rather than criticize a legend like Ray, of course. And Ray is twice the wrestler many people are. But
yeah, absolutely. But he's done his time. I think he's done his time at the top of the card. I think he needs to. He is an enhancement talent now. You know, he is there to enhance other people's pushes, etc. And he's totally fine with that. You know, yeah.
Did Rey Mysterio not hold the heavyweight championship when it was around previously?
I think he did, but did they call it that? Oh yeah, so has he held the big gold belt before?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he has.
Yeah, he has.
In that case, ignore me then. But it's just I just feel like if you're bringing it back as the heavyweight belt, like
I do get that. It because and also I think about 3 or 4 years ago, there was an argument. Do you remember they had that multi-man match, and it was around the time that they did Great Balls of Fire, that they had that multi-man match where it was all massive guys, and it felt like Land of the Giants because there was a lot of the kind of smaller guys like Sammy wouldn't have been anywhere near to getting like that kind of belt because it was just a case of how can you put him in the ring with someone where it's like Brock or Bobby Lashley or Samoa Joe, etc. So yeah, it would have been really difficult to kind of like justify it if that's the route they're going down. Fair play, but yeah, it's difficult to kind of say whether they're going to strictly adhere to like a weight limit or if it is a heavyweight thing or if it's just the name of the belt. I would imagine it's the latter because if you go down the sort of weigh-ins and stuff like that, it becomes a little bit murky as to where's the cutoff. Is it 206 upwards? Because then it's like you have to address the fact that you had a 205 live once upon a time, and we don't have cruiserweights these days. And does that exclude anyone like Johnny Gargano ever going for it? Etc.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, Andy. Correct. I was going to say, isn't the whole reason that they got rid of the word heavyweight and they got rid of the big gold belt to begin with and made the universal was because of that issue to try and forget weight classes altogether? And then they kind of got in their own way with 205 live. It's just from what I remember from the time. I've had a drink and bumped my head a few times since.
I think one of the issues with Big Gold, which is why it seems to be that they've done the belt the way they have, was because it wasn't branded and it was very much attached to WCW. And when they kind of started to move away and they really wanted to brand everything and put side plates on, because side plates, as you can see from this shot in particular, you can replace them and they're actually massive sellers. They shift a lot of numbers on WWE's online shop. They do special ones for WrestleMania. They did them for Clash at the Castle. I think they do them for most premium live events. So they needed to change the belt. Was one of the big things for commercial purposes because it just wasn't one that was kind of making them enough money when you can do those kind of things and then change nameplates, etc. But it's an interesting find out. Again, maybe it becomes that one of the brands is more leaning towards that kind of superstar where they're a little bit bigger and they have like maybe SmackDown is more of a kind of quick paced fast action matches where it used to be once upon a time, and Raw is more of the kind of heavyweights guys. So yeah, interesting to see because we do have the draft and there seems to be a lot of change in the air at WWE. They're also going international for the next 3 pay-per-views, or premium live events. Keep doing that. Apologies if anyone from Romans or WWE is listening because I need to get that right. It's premium live events, not pay-per-views.
Yes,
just
what
it is.
PLEs. I was
just to respond to.
Go on, Sam.
Sorry.
Go on. Oh, sorry, go on, Sam. Go on, you're up. Go on. Let's do it.
No, I was going to say just to
respond.
Go on,
Sassy Sam. Go on, Sassy Sam.
To respond to Misfit. It's I'm aware of the kayfabe reasoning behind them unifying it with the WWE title. I'm more referring to some of the commentary from the time referring to, with the belts and the issue around the heavyweight thing, because I didn't imagine that commentary. I remember reading it. I maybe wrote some of it. It's just a case of I get that that's what they did. I'm more questioning, was that potentially some of the motivation behind it backstage? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. I'm just floating that out, and because there's always going to be those people who say that, like, I don't know, you should have a heavyweight title and call it that if you're not having it mean heavyweights. They didn't want the title anymore. It had nothing to do with weight. Well, again, we weren't sat in the room. I'm referring to the commentary again, not the. I don't know how else to explain it other than that, really.
Well, really tight. At the end of the day, times change. The company makes their decisions for whatever reasons. There's probably a lot of reasons, and let's face it, there is one major reason why WWE do a lot of the things they do, and it comes down to money. And that's not a Skaven thing. They are a business at the end of the day. They are going to make business decisions. Sometimes they just want to freshen things up, and I think Big Gold was definitely, for me anyway, it was always a WCW belt that was kind of brought across, and it meant it kind of harkened back to that, and maybe they were just looking to go in a new direction. So I think there's a multitude of reasons they could have done it, and unless you ask someone like Triple H or Vince, if you ever got the opportunity, you wouldn't ever really find out the specific reason behind it. Maybe Bruce Pritchard or someone will discuss that at some point on one of their podcasts. But one thing I would like to, we're not going to go on too much longer, but one thing I would like to know, if you were going to give this belt, this title as an opportunity to someone from NXT or an up-and-coming superstar, I'd like you to hear your kind of thoughts on that. So if you could pick one person that they would get this and it would kind of elevate them instantly, I'm going to guess the likes of Bron Breakker is going to feature heavily here. But is there anyone else that you might think, actually, they've never had a world title before? Who do you think you would go for? Dom, what about yourself?
That is a wicked question, and as much as I really love, well, I'm not. In fact, I don't love Bron Breakker at all. I understand why he is so, so hotly tipped to be a champion going forward, and I get it, and I have no doubt that he will be. No doubt that he will be a future champion. In an ideal dream world. And this is I understand that this is a very, very outside pick, and I appreciate that. But if I was going to elevate somebody and strap the rocket to them, and it's not just because I'm British, but someone like Tyler Bate, to the younger guy. I know Triple H is a huge fan of his. He's a smaller dude as well, which again, sort of. Again, would you communicate that anybody could have an opportunity in WWE? I'm not saying you'd have a particularly long run with it, but someone like Tyler Bate coming on and shocking the world, and getting that win, even if it was for 1 week, something like that could be monumental for, again, British wrestling, for kids that dream, who are a little bit smaller. Again, it would be a modern day Rey Mysterio. They're of similar size and build, or he and Tyler Bate. So very, very outside pick, and I understand that. But absolutely, Tyler Bate would be a wonderful, just strap the rocket on, shock the world first champion, even if he got beat by Finn for it the next week, or Braun for it the next week, or something along those lines. It would be a really interesting pick there. Really outside pick, I'm aware.
Love that. Very, very outside, very left wing. Sam, can you top that for in terms of outside picks, or we are discussing here? It has to be someone who's not held one of WWE's main championships in their past, and someone who's an up and comer. So yeah, definitely that's a great shout, Tyler Bate.
Well, I'm actually not going to go with anyone from NXT, because I think that the big three in NXT, the three big male stars right now, are obviously Carmelo Hayes, Bron Breakker, and Grayson Waller. All three of them are future absolute stars, and I can't wait to see where they go. But if I'm picking someone from them, I'm going to pick someone from the main roster, and it's not going to surprise Dom, but I'm going to go with Karrion Kross, because I think it might be the only way to rehabilitate him. Like, just look at the guy, look at his matches, look at his promos, look at how his gimmick with his wife and the hourglasses. They need to rehabilitate him stat. and make him a force to be reckoned with. And I think sticking that belt on him overnight could do that.
It's too early. It's too early.
It's probably but it's like compared to Tyler Bate.
Yeah, but we're talking about the question that we were asked originally was an NXT pick, and you went completely off the road.
Because I don't think anyone in NXT is worthy at this stage of holding that belt.
Well, yeah, but what's Karrion Kross done apart from beat?
That's the point. That's the point. Nothing. It's about potential, not what he's done. It's about potential for me.
Karrion Kross wouldn't shock the world like Tyler Bate would. Karrion Kross wouldn't generate news headlines like Tyler Bate would, and Karrion Kross wouldn't inspire a wave of international wrestling stars to believe that they could be WWE superstars. It makes so much. It would be even again just for that week. Tyler Bate doing loads of interviews with British wrestling press, with international wrestling press. It looks so much, but Karrion Kross just hasn't been that great. His personality and his gimmick hasn't been that great. And I'm a big Karrion Kross fan, but it hasn't been that great. You don't give it to Karrion Kross. And you forget the question you were actually asked that you completely disregarded.
No, I addressed it. I addressed it with my 3 top NXT picks, but I don't even think they are yet at the stage where they should have a main roster world title. Where if I'm looking at the roster, because we mentioned the Rollinses and the Finn Balor's and the actual stars who are on there, who are like Balor's underutilized. I think Seth has pretty much done everything. But if I'm thinking of someone they brought back who was originally got rid of by Vince, they brought him back, started off well, feuding with McIntyre, having the cage match, started off well, and it wasn't his fault he fell off again. It was the booking. The booking was bad. Now, I think if they were to book him strongly in the run-up, he could be a good contender. He looks terrifying. He could be a good heavyweight world champion. I'm not saying that they're going to, or that it makes sense to do that overnight. But if I was thinking out of someone out of left field, I'm not comfortable going with NXT right now. I think there's a lot of talent on the main roster that they could utilize first. And I'm scared of calling up those 3 guys to the main roster because they're killing it so much in NXT. That's all it is. I don't think we need
pulling a Vince basically and just pretending that NXT doesn't exist. And
I love NXT. I just don't think there's anyone on there right now, single stars, who needs calling up yet. It would have been Bron Breakker. He was the obvious choice. It would have been Bron Breakker, but they've decided to turn him heel and keep him there instead. So at this stage,
I'm not convinced they're keeping him there. I'm pretty sure he's going to get drafted. I think they're just because he's kind of had this. They've been ducking the kind of the call out, which is strange for a champion to be calling out a challenger. But that seems to be the way they're going for Carmelo Hayes, and they're giving him I think what they're trying to do is give him a little bit of a mean streak, a bit of an edge before he does get called up to try and round out his personality. For me, if I was answering the question that I posed myself, I'll shout out a name that I think could work. Is Dragunov. Personally, I think when we go back and look at Stand and Deliver from LA, he was fantastic in that multi-man match, and he kind of really was the glue. And he's so good at selling all the little things, and the way he kind of puts himself about with absolutely no regard for his own welfare. But the way that they would do that for me, and the only way they could really do it, is when he gets drafted up, they have to go on this whole old school vignettes of he's come in and have his kind of like whole story and background, and then eventually just kind of like have him set loose into it. So they don't have long to do it. They would have to kind of build it straight away from the draft. But certainly I see Dragunov as a big player in the future, and I know Triple H is big on him as well.
I agree, but I think his future is in, as Martin has said, in an IC title feud with Gunther. Whether almost straight away, whether he wins that, I don't think he wins that. But I think if you call him up, you put him straight in a feud with Imperium, with maybe Tyler Bate to back him up. If Tyler Bate comes up as well, something like that would be wonderful. A European connection type faction. to face Imperium, and then Ilya Dragunov and Tyler Bate actually versus Gunther again for the IC title would be wonderful.
It's a good one, that,
yeah, great booking again, for both. For both Dragunov and well, if I do say so myself, Tyler Bate, but certainly Dragunov's a good one. That, again, I know the names come up. They could shock the world in another way and give the championship to a guy like Jinder Mahal. Don't hinder Jinder. I'm very much in that camp. So
it's cool. It's cool that, because the whole Dragunov and Gunther thing, and even the Tyler Bate Gunther thing, even the Pete Dunne Gunther thing. Like, not only have we seen all those things in progress, we also saw them all in NXT UK. So it would be a great way of, and they all worked. I think Gunther's the common denominator there.
But I think Gunther and Dragunov are 1-1 as well, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, and if they were to do that on the main roster, it would work again on a bigger stage. So I'm all for those 3 men versus Gunther, just infinitely. And I like the idea of the IC being the place where some of the European guys can really let loose, because it doesn't work for me when you've got one of the UK guys or the European guys chasing the United
US
States.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to work for me. I think you need the AJ Styles is involved in that, and the Rollinses, and you know what I mean. And I'm not saying nobody can go after either one. Everybody can go after everything, but it works for me from a storyline point of view, from a prestige point of view, when the IC is chased by the Gunther holding the IC is mwah. And I love Austin Theory's title run as well right now. Long may they reign. But yeah, the idea of those challengers, the Bates, the Dunns, the Dragunovs going up against Gunther, holy crap, that's an entire year of pay-per-views as far as I'm concerned. Do it now.
I saw there was a great meme going around the last couple of weeks, which was saying there is a possibility of this being on SmackDown, and it was a picture of like Sheamus, Drew, Pete Dunne, Dragunov, Tyler Bate, and it was all these kind of like European like wrestlers and or superstars, and I was like, yeah, give me that. I'm absolutely fine with that. Just give me that straight away. But yeah, it's interesting because obviously with the IC, as you said, it almost feels like, back in the day when you'd have like Chris Jericho challenging for the European Championship. You're like, why is this called the European Championship if it's got like Canadian and American holders? But it doesn't really have to be that, but it does feel a little bit more legit when it is someone from that kind of region. So I get what you mean. But yeah, there's a couple more comments coming in. Misfit Wrestling, one of my favorites, Tommaso Ciampa. I don't know how long he's out injured for, but I do miss Ciampa being around. I don't know who I was having the conversation with. It might be my friend John, who listens to the show and probably listens to this back on Monday or Tuesday. Just give me Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano's whole storyline from NXT. Just do it again, exactly the same way, but on the main roster. Just play it out again. It was so good. Just do it again. I don't think we need anything different. But what about if booked correctly, Santos Escobar?
Oh, that's nice. If he's booked correctly,
yeah, because obviously at the moment he's very much part of the LWO versus Judgment Day stuff, so he's intrinsically linked with Rey Mysterio and Bad Bunny, etc. That's going on at the moment. But you do get the feeling it's not going to last forever. Very strangely, WWE today released a new Legado del Fantasma T-shirt, which was an LWO, which is a pretty cool T-shirt where they're all wearing suits and it's all about. It's got like 4 different words. I can't remember which ones it are, but it's a very nice looking T-shirt. So maybe there is a plan to kind of move them back into the Legado phase. And Santos Escobar was fantastic in NXT. So there's definitely ways to book him where he comes across very strong on his own right. And obviously has his kind of tag team behind him as well. So Santos Escobar, I'd be happy for him to be a contender to start with. Especially if it's a multi-man match, chuck him in there. I think he's deserved it over the last few weeks. But yeah, as yet entitled, also Ciampa would be a great name for the title. Would be the new Goldie. Interesting. Be the big Goldie this time instead. So yeah, great. So keep the names coming. We're not going to hang around too long. We'll have a little bit of a break before the 1 a.m. watch along for SmackDown, where some of the questions and some of the theories that we're going through will be either debunked or maybe strengthened a little bit when we find out who is going to be on SmackDown. The draft starts tonight and continues on Monday, when you can watch Danny also on Give Me a Hole Yeah when he does his watch along. I hear you have to bring snacks. I hear that is a thing that you have to do when watching the Raw stream with Danny. So check that out. And if you're unsure, go back and watch one from this week or the last week, because let's face it, the last few weeks of Raw have been very good. So watch it, get a little bit of a flavour of what you've been missing out on and what you can be part of moving forward. But these guys here at 1 a.m. will be doing their usual SmackDown watch along. I must say, guys, your guest last week was fantastic. I very much enjoyed hearing a different voice on the channel as well. So fantastic to have someone new on.
It was good, yeah. Obviously, they were great. Obviously, a great connection from WrestleMania. Kinney will not be with us tonight, but hopefully, will be joining us in forthcoming weeks. But very excited to have you, Andy. Of course, you are the voice of reason between myself and Sam. We've yet to see your alter ego, sadistic Sporzy or something along those lines. I don't know what we could call
acidic Andy.
I don't think you're allowed to call me what starts with an A before my name. Might get a strike on YouTube for it.
Maybe, but like you, I feel like there's some kind of, I feel like you're like the dude love of our, you like super chill, super. No, Anthony's like Anthony's like the mankind. He hangs around like touching himself in the basement. But so Andy's like the dude love, but he's definitely got a little bit of cactus Jack in him somewhere, So we'll see if it comes out at some point.
I also got to say I'm very disappointed that I watched intently Ant's latest stream from his WWE 2K draft and just ducked my challenge from last week completely. So I feel like the news hasn't actually got out there yet. So
I have spoken to him. I have spoken to him about the challenge. He said he's interested. He said he would drop you a message, but clearly he's been ducking you. So
well, Ant, I'll look into the camera and say this. You can mess around all you want with your big universal all women's draft. If you ever fancy actually picking up a challenge, give me a text, give me a call. I'm waiting for you to respond.
Called you out.
Let's go.
I looked into the camera and everything, which is really weird because they can't see what's going on below you and what it looks like. So I looked into the camera and everything.
Ant's in bed right now on his phone, looking at that, going, "Mother trucker."
I hope so. Yeah, I feel like this is going to turn into an actual feud promo between us, and we'll get it going. It will happen.
It's exciting. But yeah, definitely, like I say, definitely support Wrestling Royalty. Definitely support Wrestling Royalty, Andy Spores, as he comes and joins us, the Give Me a Hole Yeah podcast tonight for SmackDown Night 1 of the draft. Could get some shocks, could get some surprises, and thank you all. It feels like I've gone into promotion mode, but it's not even my channel. Thank you all for joining us.
What's your thoughts, by the way, on the rumor that the WWE production trucks have, for the first time, loaded the Firefly Funhouse into the back of them?
We discussed this earlier, didn't we, mate?
We did. I text Sam. I was like, this is what Twitter's saying, but wrestling Twitter's full of shitheads. Sorry, but
it is. But it
is, including us. So I'm super excited about the potential. Even if it's just a segment, even if it's just a 5-second hint, I will explode.
Well, for anyone watching, the only way that you'll find out how Dom reacts is if you do tune in at 1 a.m. So as we bring this to a close, and thank you very much for being here. If you are watching this later on, because I know there's a few people who do like to kind of have this on in the background during, when they're working, and they like to kind of have it on and listen to our ramblings, etc. Please do like and subscribe, not just to my channel, and you can find me by searching for Andrew Spores. You found this, so you've done well so far. So just like and subscribe to Wrestling Royalty. Like and subscribe to Give Me a Hole Yeah. Like and subscribe to WrestleSphere Soundsphere. I feel like I'm missing something at somewhere. Sam, you've got a workplace that probably wants likes and subscribes.
Yeah, I'm sure they appreciate it. Yeah, a Deserto for some of the best gaming content you're going to see on the internet, and some of the best content like covering other streamers and covering like entertainment and esports. Like, sorry, we're second to none in that space. I'm mostly the gaming guy, but when it comes to esports and entertainment and like internet culture, sorry, we're number one. Sorry, simple as that. But there you go.
Don't apologize, just steer into it. Number one.
Yeah. Well, it's a
but
fact. It's not even my opinion.
Been great to have you guys on. There's been some big opinions, and as I said, the only way we're really going to find out is in the next few weeks, because WWE is moving and they're shifting and they're shaking and doing a lot of different things here. So we've got the draft tonight, we've got the draft on Monday. I don't know if they've now cancelled the plans that they were supposed to do another round of draft picks the following Friday. That seems to have disappeared off any of the title cards that they've had for it. But then I do believe next week we are also into Backlash territory, which will be coming from Puerto Rico. And then at the end of May, we also have the Night of Champions, where a new heavyweight champion will be crowned. So between now and then, expect lots of content from myself, expect a lot of content from Dom and Sam and the rest of the guys at Give Me a Hull, yeah. So I'll give each of you a minute just to kind of have a little bit of a plug. Talk about yourselves, where can people find you, all that good stuff. Dom, let's let you kick it off, mate.
Right, okay. Well, you can support Soundsphere, SOUNDSPHERE on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that jazz. Support Give Me a Hull, yeah. We'll be over there in just a little bit. Support WrestleSphere, WrestleSphere, SPHERE on YouTube, Twitter. I think it's Wrestle_Sphere on Twitter. Go and support those things. Please support my accessibility platform, which I don't talk about very often. Wobbling about and rocking out. Wobble and rock on most platforms. Do that. And yeah, support. And thank you, Andy, for giving us the opportunity to plug our things. I believe I'm supposed to be going on Misfit Wrestling podcast's draft thing very, very shortly as well. So drop some support to Misfit Wrestling podcast, and yeah, come and join us later for Give Me a Hull, yeah, and we'll be seeing you right here on Wrestling Royalty very, very soon.
Sam, about yourself, you've had a little bit of a time, but what else would you like to talk about?
I think I've done everything, mate. I think for me, from a wrestling point of view, Give Me a Hull, yeah, and WrestleSphere, they're the two things. And obviously, WrestleSphere is an arm of Dom's Soundsphere magazine. So that, you know, if I was from a wrestling point of view, they're the two things I think everyone should like and subscribe and follow the three of us on Twitter as well, because not only are we all devastatingly handsome, we post some funny things as well. So there you go, and some insightful things. It's basically just going to improve your life completely.
I mean, I do have to agree. I think tonight all three of us are looking particularly dashing. Maybe it's for the draft. Maybe it's just because it's a Friday night and it's a bank holiday weekend, and we're all feeling a little bit sexy on a Friday. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in. You know, there's been a lot of comments. As yet untitled Misfit Wrestling Podcast. It's been a pleasure having you guys and girls and everyone around who said hello and thank you and everything like that. So join us for the next one. You can see our Twitter handles. Go follow them before they disappear. And I'm trying to think of anything else I'm supposed to plug. Rush on Rock. Go check out Rush on Rock. There's a couple of stories that are going to be coming up very shortly. There's some good stuff coming to the channel. There's going to be some more features coming along for Rush and Rock as well, and some more harebrained ideas, I'm sure, will be coming up in the next few weeks as WWE is doing a lot of different things. And AEW, go check out AEW stuff because they've got a massive day on Tuesday. See how many tickets they can shift. So yeah, lots of good stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been Wrestling Royalty. I've completely realized I've done what Dom always does, and I have not queued up an outro. But this has been Wrestling Royalty. I've been Andy. That's been Dom. That's been Sam. And have a